So I'm sitting here broke as hell scrolling through Indeed for the fifth hour straight. And you want to know how I got here? I straight up told my boss. I don't listen to no man. Not even you. Right to his face in front of the whole marketing team. My name's Shaniqua Williams, 28, and I swear this whole mess ain't even my fault. I was killing it at Pinnacle Digital Marketing for almost 2 years before everything went sideways with my boss Trevon. From day one, this man had it out for me, always nitpicking my presentations and suggesting improvements, like I didn't graduate top of my class at community college. Every single meeting, he'd interrupt me or ask me to clarify points that were crystal clear to everyone else in the room. Meanwhile, he'd let Kyle and Jackson ramble on forever about their basic ideas without saying a word. The office was already a boys' club when I started, 7 guys and only 3 women in our department, with Trevon running the show like some kind of king. My cubicle was right next to Lakeisha's, the only other sister in the office, and we'd text each other eye-roll emojis during meetings when the men were being extra. I worked twice as hard as any of those guys, staying late finishing projects while they were out having happy hour at Chili's. My social media campaigns were bringing in mad clients, but somehow Trevon always found something to criticize. The tone doesn't align with our brand voice. Or, we need to pivot the strategy, whatever that means. Things really started heating up when I landed the Luxe Cosmetics account all by myself, a contract worth over $50K that had everyone shook. Suddenly, Trevon was all up in my business, wanting daily updates and trying to help guide the project, when really he just wanted to take credit for my work. Lakeisha warned me to just play along, saying, "Girl, just nod and smile, then do your thing anyway." But I wasn't about to let another man take credit for my success. My mama didn't raise no pushover, and after watching my daddy walk all over her for years before leaving us high and dry, I promised myself I'd never let a man control me. The day before everything blew up, Trevon called me into his office to discuss my approach to the Luxe campaign, basically telling me to scrap my entire concept and start over with his boring, played-out ideas. I sat there nodding while my blood pressure was through the roof, thinking about the 20 hours of work he wanted me to throw away because he felt threatened by my creativity. That night I was venting to my roommate Destiny while we split a bottle of pink Moscato in our apartment, and she was like, "Girl, you need to stand up for yourself before that man steals your whole career." I went to bed fired up, ready to defend my work and not back down no matter what he said. The next morning, I walked into that office with my head high, wearing my power blazer from Rainbow and those red bottom heels I got from the outlet mall. The team meeting started with Trevon going around the table asking for updates, and when he got to me, he didn't even let me finish my first sentence before cutting in with, "Actually, we're going to take a different approach with Luxe." That's when I felt something snap inside me. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back and hit the wall. "Excuse me? I've been working on this campaign for weeks and you're just gonna throw it out?" Everyone in the conference room froze like they were playing musical statues. Trevon had this fake, calm smile plastered on his face. "Shaniqua, we can discuss this privately after the meeting." But I was done being silenced. "No, we can discuss it right now in front of everyone whose time I've been wasting, apparently." I could see Kyle and Jackson exchanging those little smirks they always do. Trevon stood up too, pulling himself up to his full height like that was supposed to intimidate me. "As your manager, I'm making an executive decision on the direction of this campaign." And that's when I said it. The words just flew out my mouth before I could stop them. "I don't listen to no man, not even my boss, period." The entire room went dead silent. I swear you could hear the air conditioning kick on. Lakeisha's eyes were wide as dinner plates, and she was subtly shaking her head at me. Trevon's face went from shocked to ice cold in about 2 seconds. "Shaniqua, my office. Now, everyone else, take 10. As he walked out, I stayed rooted to the spot, heart pounding but chin up. DeAndre from graphic design whispered, "Damn girl, you just signed your own pink slip," as he passed by. In Trevon's office, he closed the door and just stared at me for a full minute. "Do you realize what you just said out there?" he finally asked. I crossed my arms. I said what I said. "I'm tired of you undermining me and trying to control my work." He leaned back in his fancy leather chair. This isn't about control, it's about respecting the chain of command and being a team player. I laughed right in his face. Team player? When have any of you ever treated me like I'm on the team? Y'all just want me to shut up and take orders. Trevon pinched the bridge of his nose like he was getting a headache. I'm going to give you one chance to apologize to me and to the team when we resume the meeting. I grabbed my purse off the floor. Apologize for what? Standing up for myself? Not happening. As I reached for the door, he said, "This is your final warning, Shaniqua. Think very carefully about your next move." Back at my desk, my phone was blowing up with texts from Lakeisha. "Girl, what did you do? Are you okay? Did he fire you?" I texted back, "Not fired yet, but not apologizing either." Then I made my first mistake. Well, second if you count the outburst. I opened Twitter and typed out, "Just told my male boss I don't listen to no man. Not even him. The patriarchy is shaking." Number women in marketing, number toxic masculinity. That post got more attention than I expected. By lunchtime, it had over 200 likes and dozens of supportive comments from other women. I felt validated. Powerful even. The afternoon meeting was tense as hell. I walked in last, deliberately taking my time. Trevon looked at me expectantly, waiting for that apology that was never coming. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and said, "So, about my original concept for Lux." The room collectively held its breath. Trevon cut me off. "We've decided to put you on a different account for now. Jackson will be taking over Lux." My jaw dropped. "Are you for real? I brought that client in?" Trevon continued like I hadn't spoken. "DeAndre, can you update us on the Johnson project?" And just like that, I was sidelined. After the meeting, Lakeisha caught up with me by the break room. "You need to fix this before it gets worse," she warned. "He's just trying to put me in my place," I said, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. "Well, I'm not going anywhere." The next morning, my social media post had spread through the office like wildfire. I could feel eyes on me everywhere I went. Some of the women gave me subtle nods of approval in the hallway. Zendaya from HR even whispered, "Stay strong, sister," when we passed in the bathroom. But the men, they were straight up avoiding me like I had the plague. Trevon sent an email requesting my presence in a meeting with him and Monique, the HR director, at 2 p.m. I spent the morning rallying support, sending screenshots of my Twitter post to the other women in the office, with messages like, "Time to stop letting these men run everything," and "Who else is tired of being interrupted?" By lunchtime, there was a clear division in the break room. Women at one table, men at another. Lakeisha was stuck in the middle, clearly uncomfortable with how things were escalating. "This isn't just about you anymore," she said quietly. "You're making it impossible for any of us to work together." I rolled my eyes. "So I should just take it? Let them walk all over me?" She shook her head. "There's standing up for yourself, and then there's whatever this is." The HR meeting was exactly what I expected, a formal written warning for insubordination and creating a hostile work environment. Can you believe that? I was the one creating the hostile environment? When I pointed out how Trevon constantly undermined me, Monique just said they'd look into those concerns separately, but that my behavior was unacceptable regardless. I refused to sign the warning. For the next week, I kept showing up but barely had any work assigned to me. I'd come in, check my emails, find nothing important, and then spend hours on social media documenting my workplace discrimination saga. My followers were eating it up, calling me a queen for standing up to the patriarchy. One afternoon, I overheard Kyle tell Jackson that the Lux campaign was struggling without my input. That felt good. They needed me whether they admitted it or not. I decided to create my own version of the campaign anyway and send it directly to our contact at Lux, bypassing Trevon completely. I stayed late that night, polished everything to perfection, and hit send with a note explaining how my ideas had been suppressed due to gender bias in our office. I felt like a total badass walking in the next morning. Around 11 a.m., Trevon stormed over to my cubicle, his face darker than I'd ever seen it. Conference room. Now. The client had forwarded my email to him, confused about receiving conflicting campaign proposals. In the conference room waited Trevon, Monique from HR, and a woman I recognized as Patricia, the regional director who oversaw multiple branches. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a warning anymore. Patricia spoke first. Miss Williams, we've reviewed your communications with clients, your social media posts about this company, and your overall conduct these past 2 weeks. I sat up straighter, ready to defend myself. If this is about the Lux campaign, I had every right to. Patricia held up her hand. This is about multiple violations of company policy, insubordination, and damaging client relationships. Your employment with Pinnacle Digital Marketing is terminated, effective immediately. The words hit me like a bucket of ice water. Terminated? They were actually firing me? As Monique slid the termination paperwork across the table, I felt tears threatening but refused to let them fall. So y'all are firing me for being a strong black woman who won't bow down to a man? That's textbook discrimination. Trevon finally spoke up. Shaniqua, we have 6 women in leadership positions across the company. This has nothing to do with your gender and everything to do with your behavior. I gathered my things in a daze, barely registering Lakeisha's sympathetic looks or the whispers following me to the elevator. The worst part was seeing Jackson being called into Trevon's office as I left, probably to officially hand over all my accounts. I spent that night at Destiny's place, polishing off 2 bottles of wine while ranting about workplace sexism and how the corporate world can't handle strong women. She was supportive but kept asking questions that irritated me. Did you really send stuff to the client behind your boss's back? And what did you think would happen when you publicly said you wouldn't listen to your manager? I posted a long Instagram story about my firing, framing it as a brave woman punished for standing her ground. The likes and supportive comments poured in, which felt good in the moment, but didn't pay my portion of next month's rent. The first few weeks of unemployment, I was riding high on righteous anger, certain I'd find a better job in no time. I updated my resume, highlighting my leadership and initiative, without mentioning the circumstances of my departure. My first few interviews seemed to go well until they asked why I left Pinnacle. I tried different approaches, saying I was seeking new challenges or the culture wasn't a good fit, but something in their expressions told me they weren't buying it. After a month with no offers, I started getting nervous. Turned out Atlanta's marketing community was smaller than I thought. By the time I swallowed my pride and called an old college friend who worked at another agency, it was too late. Girl, everyone knows about your Twitter beef with your old boss, she told me. These companies talk. You're kind of radioactive right now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, so I'm blacklisted because I stood up for myself. She sighed through the phone. You're dealing with consequences because you publicly declared you don't listen to management and then proved it. That's not gender discrimination. No company wants that drama. My unemployment benefits barely covered half my bills, and Destiny was getting tired of covering my share of the rent. My family wasn't much help either. When I called my mom crying about the situation, she just said, "Baby, sometimes you gotta play the game to change the game. You can't win if you're not even on the field." Even my little sister Portia, who usually took my side on everything, asked if maybe I could have handled things differently. "Niqua, you always been stubborn as hell. Remember when you got kicked off the cheerleading squad in high school for arguing with Coach Williams?" 6 months later, I was working part-time at a boutique downtown, making less than half my former salary and still searching for marketing positions. One slow afternoon, Lakeisha came into the store. I hadn't seen her since the day I was fired. After an awkward hug, she told me she'd been promoted to senior social media manager. My old position, essentially. Pinnacle hired 2 new women in marketing, she said, carefully watching my reaction. Trevon's actually been sending them to leadership workshops and mentoring sessions. That stung more than I wanted to admit. I forced a smile. Good for them, I guess. Before she left, Lakeisha hesitated, then said, "You know, there's an opening at my friend's agency. It's entry-level, but it could be a fresh start. I could put in a word if you're willing to." She trailed off, but I knew what she meant. If I was willing to be humble, to admit I'd messed up, part of me wanted to snap back that I had nothing to apologize for. But the other part, the part that was tired of being broke and stuck, just nodded. I appreciate that. Really. That night, scrolling through my dwindling bank account, I allowed myself to consider, just for a moment, that maybe, possibly, I had played a small role in my own downfall. Not because I stood up for myself. I still believed that was right. but because of how I'd done it. The public call-out, the refusal to compromise, the behind-the-back client email. Those were choices I'd made that had consequences. But then I saw a trending hashtag about women in the workplace facing discrimination, and I pushed those thoughts away. It was easier to be a victim of the system than to admit I'd sabotaged myself. The next day, I updated my LinkedIn profile with a new headline: Marketing Professional Seeking Opportunities Vertical Bar Advocate for Workplace Equality. The entry-level position Lakeisha mentioned paid barely above minimum wage, but it was in my field at least. As I prepared for the interview, practicing answers about teamwork and respecting leadership that felt foreign in my mouth, I still couldn't bring myself to fully own what happened. In my mind, I was still the heroic woman who stood up to a controlling man, even if it cost me everything. Maybe this new place would be different. Maybe they'd appreciate my authenticity and directness. But deep down, I knew if another male boss tried to mansplain marketing to me, I'd struggle to keep my mouth shut. Because even after everything, I still believed it was the sexist system that was wrong, not me. I was just ahead of my time, too real for a world that wanted women to be quiet and agreeable. And if that meant starting over at the bottom rung of the ladder, well, I'd tell myself whatever story I needed to sleep at night.